Alright, welcome back. So in this video we're gonna start up on the other end of this compiler. So we've worked on the bytecode virtual machine. Now we're gonna start from the other end, which is the part of the program that reads in things from a file or from the standard input and tokenizes that. So I think we're gonna make a file here that we're just gonna call main. I'm gonna call it package main again, and then we're gonna try to import the virtual machine code like that. We're gonna disable Copilot, and we're also gonna import the core, because then we can make a dummy implementation like this, where we have the arguments. It is the arguments from OS, and then we're gonna say, let's make a switch actually, I guess, on the length of the arcs, and if it is 1, or rather, yeah, sure, 1, then we're gonna say print line at 1 arc, and anything else we're gonna do this, and that's our program for now. Let's try to run that. It did not work because of this thing, and I think we need to do this. That also did not work. I completely don't know how to... Okay, so that worked. We just give the folder. Maybe I don't even need that, maybe I just do this. Okay. And now it's complaining about duplicate package names, because in here we had called all of it main. So I actually want to go through and say ColorVM. And this one. Finally, that one we already had. Main was also. Let's write all. Let's go here, try to run it, and it did not work because we have this. Not sure how to make something that matches anything. Do we just do like that? Oh, I think it's like this actually. Okay, so that runs, and now let's also print the arcs, and it just gets the name of the binary, which is normal. So let's try this. All right. So in this case, no input file given. We're gonna start a REPL. And we're just gonna add dummy function like this for now. Can add it up here, but it doesn't do anything quite yet. This one will say assume we were given a file, read it and read it, compile, and execute. So we're gonna say file contents equals something that we can take from where? From our fluid dynamics project, where we had this regression test, where we say OS read entire file from file name, and it's just going to be the first one. Then we're going to say So now we read it. Now we need to compile it, and for that we're gonna add a to-do. Can we do it like that? And here we're just gonna say gonna print like usage. It's called CIC. And we're gonna do something like this. Start ripple. All right. Now if we run it, it does not work. Let's do this. And right, we need the success. Okay. So let's make just a quick test file. Not sure what to call it, so do like this. And we're gonna say open run, and the input is gonna be test. And it failed here, which is okay. Let's now just print out the file contents. So it's just getting the bytes, which I think is fine, just to check that we can actually read the strings. Let's do this. Great. So now we have the basic structure. Let's make a REPL. So in the REPL we need to read from standard in. So we're gonna get a we need like a buffer, which is some bytes, and let's say we have this many bytes, and we'll do something like this, I think. And then let's just print what we get. And I'm not going to print the full buffer, I'm just going to print first 20. And that's it. So now let's go out here and say open run with nothing. So now we're reading from standard in. Result is 4. And we got 1, 2, 3, and then new line. And OK was 0. So I don't think that's OK. I think it's actually error number. All right. And what was the result said 4, which was because we got 4 bytes. All right. Now one other thing that would be nice is to say let's print like a prompt like this. So now when we run it, it will have this standard prompt thingy. All right, so let's say while true, maybe it's not like that, it's just 4. So in here we gotta read, gotta eval, gotta print, and we gotta loop. this is the reading. And this is the evaluation. For now it's to do. For now it's going to be, we just print it. And this guy result, we're going to call instead number of bytes read. And the print is the same, and it's already looping. So actually one little thing we're gonna do is convert this to a string. Let's just see how that works. And it didn't like that because we need to do this, I think. So we got 1 to 3. Great. So let's actually say here input as a string is this guy. Okay, you cannot do it like that. You have to write cast string, and then this is redundant. Okay. Here we are also printing the new line again. So I think I want to do like that. Okay, so now we're going with that. Let's, however, also add a way to quit. Okay, so it will, if we just get an in the file input, it will be 0. So what we're going to do is say if n bytes read equals 0, then we break out of the infinite loop. And now we can say 2 plus 3, we can exit. And actually, let's do this so it looks a little bit nicer. 1, 2, 3, and there we go. Okay. So what should this function actually do? It should run this interpret function that we have here, which right now takes a chunk. And what we can do is perhaps let's make another one. It's called interpret string, which takes a string. For now it doesn't return anything. And then we're going to use overloading in as it is in Odin. And then we just need to implement this. Or actually, perhaps it makes more sense to have that function over here, at least for now, because it is going to depend also on the compiler, not just on the virtual machine. So we actually want to do something like compile and execute and then return let's return okay. So something like that. Let's try to run it, and it won't do anything yet because we're not calling it. So here we have the source, then we should run interpret the input, and we can call it result. And let's say if result is not okay, then we break. And we can even write a message. Fail to interpret. Let's try that. And there's no way to make it fail for now, so we won't see anything. Anything there. And then let us just set up the scaffolding for now. So I want a new folder, which we will just call compiler. And inside here, we're going to make something called main. And it's going to have compile procedure, which takes source code. It's a string, and maybe it doesn't return anything just yet. The first thing it's going to do is tokenize, and then it's going to output bytecode operations, something like that. So it's going to look like this. File to bytecode. And that's going to be the chunk. And then we return the chunk. And actually this is going to import from the VM, because this thing is going to be a chunk. I think it's with a capital C. Let's try to run this now. So it compiles. Seems to compile, but we haven't imported it yet, so that could be why. Yes, that makes more sense. So we're going to have tokenize. And it's going to return an array of tokens. Array of token. Which we haven't defined yet, but let's define it as an empty guy. And we're just gonna just dummy code for now. And finally compile to bytecode, which takes tokens and returns a chunk. And actually, let me check out this guy. Instead of a chunk, well, we can return a chunk, it's fine. And a value array is what? Let's not do that right now. Let's not do that right now. It's dynamic can I just say make something like this is what I want to do. Let's see if that even runs. It does not run. There's a problem here in line 14. Right. So I guess I have to say and finally that should do it. If I can get it right. Line 17. Now it works. And this code will then call compile on the source, and we'll get a chunk out of that, and the chunk is then passed to the VM, and it will give a result. Actually, we need to give it a pointer for some reason, and then we return that result. This one is not known, so and there we have it. Let's just try to run it. And it failed because I was a little bit too quick in setting this up. How is it? Is it if we want to push to a dynamic array or append to it, just do append, and let's, well, we don't need that actually. Let's say vm.add constant to the chunk. So now it's just some hard-coded things to test. These guys have to be pointers. And still not. We are appending, and these are all dynamic arrays, so it should be fine. I'm actually not sure what the problem is. So let's go here into main, and let's say chunk is chunk. chunk is 006 constants, right, because we have to actually kind of initialize these before we start adding things. And still there's the scaffold now, which is nice, always nice. Why is the code 006? So I guess now is a good time to use the disassembly function. We built, let's go in here. So way too many S's. So let's disassemble it and let's print it. And let's just return OK for now. So that is completely correct, but still it fails here. It's scaffolds. And it does scaffold on the result. So let's go into the VM. We set the chunk of the, then we call run. Let's set debug tracing to true. And it just fails because the VM is not initialized. That's the problem. So we actually here we want to call init VM, and then we defer free. Now it should work. Perfect. I think that's enough for this time. We just have the basic structure, which looks like this. And our interpret function doesn't really do anything. Compile doesn't do anything, just produces some hard-coded chunk. Interpret kind of works, but what we need to work on now is turning source code into some tokens. As we see here, first step is to tokenize, and then later on we're going to compile that to bytecode. But that's it for this time. See you in the next one.